David and Solomon had a lot of wives. But does that mean that God is pro-polygamy? Is polygamy allowed in Christianity?
Can you have more than one wife as a Christian? If you want some simple answers with coherent explanations, you need to watch this video.
We are going to look at 3 key things when answering this question. 1, we're going to look at David and Solomon and answering that question. 2, we're going to look at what Paul says about this situation. And 3, we're going to look at how your human nature actually proves God's stance on whether or not polygamy is allowed.
Old Testament examples. Solomon and David. Both of them,
They had a lot of wives.
quite a few things going on.
They had a lot of wives.
But does that mean that God approved of everything that they would have done? No. Here's an example. David did the whole murder thing. That was uncool. That was uncool, uncalled for, unrighteous. Don't do that.
All the bad things.
Just because he was considered a man after God's own heart does not mean that everything that the man did was cool. No, the murder was uncool. Just because Solomon had loads of wives and he asked the Lord for wisdom, which he received, is true.
Oh,
but he did have a definite Achilles heel, and he had a lot of wives. Just because it's in the Bible doesn't mean that God is cool with it. Remember, sometimes in the Bible it records history as well.
Yeah, like murder's in the Bible. Thou shalt not kill is top 10 rule.
This is a true word.
For example.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what did Paul say in the New Testament? Well, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it's a whole chapter about marriage, and it's talking about sacrificially giving yourself for the other person. You know, husbands love your wives, etc. Wives love your husbands, but it literally is talking to more than one person in the congregation. So those of you that are husbands, love your wives. Those of you that are wives, love your husbands. But it's referring, if you actually read through it, you'll see it says husband and wife.
Yeah.
Singular.
Yes, one flesh.
One flesh.
Jesus said you become one flesh, not many flesh.
That's right. Matter of fact, he specifically referred back to Genesis at the very beginning and said male and female and one flesh and etc. So you have a triple endorsement that you have Old Testament, which is don't do that. New Testament, husbands, love your wives and give yourself for your wives, just the same as Christ gives himself for the church. And you have Jesus also saying something along the lines of one husband for one wife. Just a thought.
So how does your human nature actually prove that God's stance on polygamy? Just the nature of polygamy, say you have one husband and many wives, the very nature is that somebody's going to get jealous at some point. God is pro-marriage. We've done so many videos on this, and if you want to hear what they are, subscribe to us and go and watch them. But
that's a good idea, ladies and gentlemen.
But if it was pro-marriage, but in that case it was a polygamous marriage, that means God is saying, be married and be jealous. The very nature of polygamy, having multiple intimate relationships, there's going to be jealousy. That's like unavoidable. And so if it's like, well, God is telling you, yeah, go into that situation, it's good, this is for you. You're basically saying that God is wanting you to be jealous. James chapter 1 verse 13, it says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempted he any man, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lusts and enticed.
That's what it says.
Okay, so if God is telling you go be married, but as in a polygamous marriage, that basically would lead to jealousy. You're basically saying God is tempting you to be jealous, and it literally just says he doesn't do that.
Further building on that, in Ephesians chapter 4 verses 31 and 32, it says, let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamour and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. That means do your best to get rid of that stuff. And be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. Key word there then is get rid of bitterness.
And building on that again, James goes on to say in chapter 3 verse 16, he says, for where envying and strife is, there is confusion and evil work. God does not mean your marriage to have confusion
or strife.
Marriage is supposed to be a unity, and where the unity there is peace, and God commands the blessing. He wants us to have a blessed, and you to have a blessed marriage that don't involve other people. It's just you and your spouse, just the two of you. So, are you allowed to have more than one wife as a Christian?
No. Or more than one husband.
No.
Click the playlist that is coming up for more videos about intimacy in a Christian marriage.
See you on the next video, guys.
Bye, Chase. Bye.
Bye.
Just like